Here's what happened. I had been doing therapy. I had been cutting out compulsions. I'd been going on for a couple months, kind of through the late summer. And now it was autumn. The leaves had all turned yellow. There was this path behind the apartment where I was staying. And it was lined by big trees. They had all gone yellow and they had dropped their leaves. And so the whole path was just carpeted in these golden leaves. It looked beautiful. It was the morning. The sun was coming up. It was shining in the leaves. And it was so calm and so peaceful. And there were no intrusive thoughts in my head. In the past, I used to do lots of compulsions in the morning. And often I'd be ashamed or upset that I was doing the compulsions. And in the morning, I'd be thinking about, I've got to, solve this or fix that or make sure nobody knows the compulsions I was doing, etc. I was always and I'd be rushing because I'd be doing lots of compulsions, so then I'd be late. But I wasn't. I was on my way to school. I'd had a really great morning. It was terrifying. I had never had that experience before for as long as I could remember. For my entire life, at that point I would have been around 28, 29. My entire life, I had done nothing but worry about something every morning and spend that morning trying to fix it, control it, prevent that bad thing from happening, checking it, or on some occasions, I would feel happy that I had fixed the problem. And so the morning would just be thinking about, oh, isn't it great that I got rid of that problem? Okay, everything is fine now. That morning, for the first time, walking down that path covered in those golden leaves, those beautiful trees, that was the first time I'd ever experienced not having a bunch of terrible stuff in my head that I wanted to fix and control. And it was absolutely terrifying because I did not know how to function. I did not know how I was going to be happy if I didn't have something to control. I just didn't know what I was going to do. I had never not had something to hate on and then use that hate and that fear to motivate my actions. That was the only fuel I'd use to function. And now I had no fuel. I didn't know where to go or what to do. So I relapsed. I went back to doing compulsions and creating lots of things that I could fix and control. How often do you rely on a problem for purpose? Do you see it as boring to have nothing to fix? And that boredom is a bad thing to avoid. Are you setting goals around mental health and measuring success by defeating enemies and getting rid of things you hate? Because then you're going to keep needing more things to hate so you can defeat them. That experience that morning, that first experience, not the panicked, terrified experience after, but that first experience of not having a bunch of things in my head or in my life that I needed to be fixing and controlling to find purpose, that can become the norm. We don't have to hold on to it and force it to be there all the time and try to cling to it. Because of course that'll just create a new source of stress and fear. But when we practice consistently being ourselves, aligning our time and energy with our values, turning those values into action in our daily lives, that experience does become the norm. One of the biggest challenges that I'll often describe as a mental fitness pro skill is allowing things to go well. Fueling life with that more challenging fuel of values, of building and growing, rather than the cheap, easy, polluting fuel of hating on something and finding problems to fix reactively. It can just be weird after decades of an abusive, traumatic relationship with the brain. It's at first odd and boring to let things go well, to not have a problem, something we judge as broken, something we judge as wrong, to fix and control. We can drop the managing approach to mental illness. We can explore life after the diagnoses. But that is something that we need to create and give ourselves some place to go. Because if we don't build a framework for walking off of that battlefield, where we say, look, I no longer have to make mental health about defeating enemies. So I don't need any more of these enemies to fix and control. And we don't create that separate framework around things we actually want to build and start to make it okay to have some feelings like boredom or calm or peace. If we don't build a purpose around peace, then we're not going to go there. If we don't build an identity around that peace and that practice of sustaining great mental health and fitness, then yeah, we're gonna go back again and again to the fixing and controlling, because that gives us something to go after, that gives us some purpose. You have a chance to build an identity around a different interaction with experiences inside of you and around you. So what's that gonna look like? What's it look like to have a practice of allowing things to go well? So if fear and control and problem solving wasn't at the center, what would you put there instead? And there might be a couple things to put there instead, but what are those things that you want to grow and create and do well? How are you going to let things go well? Even if that seems ridiculous and far off right now, right? Where there's just the brain still the never-ending constant stream of intrusive thoughts and problems and pain, etc. I get it. It's useful though now to start planning for that, so that when those moments come, you're ready to sustain letting things go well, that you're already moving in that direction. I'll give you some examples of my own practice of letting things go well. And there's a lot to it, but here are some kind of simple actions. When we make that shift from the fixing and controlling to proactively building and growing and adding, one of the areas that's important to look at is what we're going to do around mental health, because our whole approach to mental health, and this is in many ways the way the system is set up, is around fixing a problem. But we don't do that with physical fitness. So I find it useful to follow the same approach we would take in physical fitness. So even if you reached out, you started to get help because there was a problem, there was like an injury. If you want to have a sustainable physical fitness practice, you've got to identify some skills that you want to make that practice about. Same with mental health. For me, with my mental health and fitness practice, it was useful to explore meditation, and not to fix something, not to control something, but to get interested in meditation as a hobby, as a sport, as a thing I want to learn about, as a practice where I want to build skills and grow and learn and share that practice with others. So making my mental health practice more about something like meditation is similar to how somebody with physical fitness might say, oh, I want to be a runner. So yeah, you pick something, and there's many different things we can pick and explore, but it's about having a kind of like a mental health hobby that is about something we want to add to our lives rather than, ooh, I've got to do this or bad things will happen. Another practice I really enjoy for letting things go well is what I call a bias to action. And a bias to action is about not doing things in my head to like problem solve and plan and strategize unless I'm going to take action on it right now. And this is really useful because in the past, I would just always be problem solving and having imaginary arguments and debates in my head. And I saw that as not just necessary, but as a pastime. I would, if I had to, I don't know, walk somewhere, drive somewhere, I would choose the problem I was going to work on solving on the journey to that place in my head. And that may not seem like an issue at first, but if we're teaching our brains that, hey, whenever there is the potential for calm and peace, we should fill that with a problem to solve, it's gonna fill it. And at first, sometimes those problems can seem necessary, normal, rational, etc. Sure, but you're not going to like it when the brain starts to fill that space with things that are impossible to solve. That is what it's going to do because you like spending your free time solving problems in your head. So now I really enjoy practicing a bias to action. If I notice there's an uncertainty in my head, I'm starting to get caught up in it, I'm going to say, am I going to do anything about this right now? no, I'm not going to take action on it right now. Okay, there's no point to me having this debate, this strategy, this never-ending business strategy session in my head. A third one that I really like, that I practice all the time, wherever I am in the world, however I'm moving around, and when I'm not moving around, is breakfast. I often tell people my mental health practice is breakfast. That's not a joke. That's not meant to diminish, I don't know, breakfast or mental health practices or something like that. No, really, I elevate the importance of breakfast, and that's not because some terrible thing will happen if I don't eat breakfast. It just ensures that I'm nourishing myself and I'm taking care of myself, and that's important to me. Whatever context I find myself, I'm gonna take steps to ensure that I can nourish myself, that I'm gonna care for myself. I can enjoy having breakfast. There's not some other thing I need to be doing. I don't have to fill that space. I can enjoy preparing breakfast and giving that to myself. Breakfast. Maybe inner peace is boring. It's lazy to not be constantly fixing and controlling things inside of us. But when we can allow things to go well, when we can allow for peace, we can turn our time and energy to creating some pretty amazing things in life. So enjoy letting things be a little boring and a little bit lazy.